The Peter Schiff Show.
I want to play a little sound from Obama's speech. I know we mentioned it. He was out there last night. First of all, listen to this, where Obama tries to say that history remembers people who sacrificed their principles.
History is scattered with the stories of those who held fast to rigid ideologies and refused to listen to those who disagreed. But those are not the Americans we remember. We remember the Americans who put country above self and set personal grievances aside for the greater good. We remember the Americans who held this country together during its most difficult hours, who put aside pride and party to form a more perfect union. That's who we remember. That's who we need to be right now.
Wait a minute. I mean, don't we remember Thomas Jefferson and John Adams and George Washington? Don't we have monuments to these guys? Don't we have pictures of them on our money? These are people who fought a war over ideology, that stuck to their rigid ideology to the point of a bayonet, that we broke from the British because of an ideology, because of a belief in limited government, right? In taxation, without representation, whatever. We wanted autonomy. We wanted freedom. We wanted capitalism. We wanted sound money. The founding fathers put it all on the line for their ideology. They didn't care what the popular consensus was. They didn't care what the British wanted, or even the majority of Americans. That this country was founded by ideologues, and the fact that they held true to their principles rather than to compromise. That's what we remember. Who is he kidding? I mean, the problem with this country is too much compromise. Too many people have put aside their principles for political expediency. That's what Obama's doing, and he's trying to put that up on a pedestal as if that is something that we admire. Anyway, here's some more on this nonsense about how great it is that we compromise.
Yes, many want government to start living within its means. And many are fed up with a system in which the deck seems stacked against middle-class Americans in favor of the wealthiest few. But do you know what people are fed up with most of all? They're fed up with a town where compromise has become a dirty word. They work all day long, many of them scraping by just to put food on the table. And when these Americans come home at night, bone-tired, and turn on the news, all they see is the same partisan three-ring circus here in Washington.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, Americans aren't upset because of too much or because of a lack of compromise in Washington. We have compromised our way to ruin. The problem is we've had too much compromise in Washington and not enough ideology, at least on the right. We need people who are going to defend the ideology upon which this country was founded. The Constitution, limited government, individual liberty, sound money, all these things. Unfortunately, we've compromised too often on these principles, and now we find ourselves in the predicament that we're in, and more compromise is not the solution. And believe me, the people who are working hard, struggling all day to put food on the table, when they come home, they couldn't care less about what's on the news about the debt negotiations. They're not watching the news. If they're watching TV, they're watching some reality show. They're playing with their kids. They don't care. Maybe this is news in Washington, but believe me, the average American who's struggling to get by, this is all a sideshow. This is noise if he's even paying attention. What he cares about is his own standard of living, how much money is taken out of his paycheck by government, why he can't get a job. And he might not understand why he can't get a job, but it's not because there's not enough compromise in Washington, D.C. So if Obama really cared about those people who are struggling, he would cut government spending. He would lighten their burden. Does he really think that they're going to be happy? Oh, hey, it's great news that Obama and Congress compromised, and now we can raise the debt ceiling. I mean, you think anyone's going to be happy about that? Oh, great. No, they're not going to be happy about that at all. They would be happy, on the other hand, if they could get a tax cut. That would make them happy, or if they could get a job. But none of this is going to be accomplished by raising the debt ceiling. In fact, all of those goals are going to be that much harder to achieve because we raise the debt ceiling. It's interesting that Obama was bashing Bush for creating the deficits with tax cuts and spending hikes. And then in the very next breath, he goes and pats himself on the back for doing the same thing.
To make matters worse, the recession meant that there was less money coming in, and it required us to spend even more on tax cuts for middle-class families to spur the economy, on unemployment insurance, on aid to states so we could prevent more teachers and firefighters and police officers from being laid off. These emergency steps also added to the deficit.
All right, but that's exactly what Bush did. I mean, if the Obama tax cuts spurred the economy, why didn't the Bush tax cuts spur the economy? After all, I mean, it's tax cuts it's the same thing, and he's admitting that what he did to increase spending and cut taxes added to the deficit. But he just criticized Bush for making the same choice that he did. Now, the truth of the matter is he's right. Bush was wrong, but so was he. They both made the same mistake. John Boehner also was on television last night making his speech, and I want to be a little critical there as well regarding how he characterizes the entitlement problem.
The president has often said we need a balanced approach, which in Washington means we spend more and you pay more. Having run a small business, I know those tax increases will destroy jobs. The president is adamant that we cannot make fundamental changes to our entitlement programs. As a father of two daughters, I know these programs won't be there for them and their kids unless significant action is taken now. And the sad truth is that the president wanted a blank check 6 months ago, and he wants a blank check today.
You see, the problem with entitlements, it's not about our children and our grandchildren and the programs not being there. They're not going to be there. I mean, that isn't even part of the debate. What we should be talking about is, are these programs going to be there for us, for this generation, for the people in their 40s and 50s and 60s and 70s? And the truth of the matter is the programs won't be there for this generation of Americans because it will collapse, because our children and our grandchildren cannot afford to pick up the tab. They are not going to pay the taxes necessary to sustain these benefits. They will leave the country before they do that. And so we need to tackle the deficit problem and put the debate not in the context of what it means for our children and grandchildren, because a lot of people don't care. A lot of people think, hey, they're not my kids, they're somebody else's kids, or, let them deal with it. No, we need to put the entitlement predicament in its proper form, which is how it affects the people right now on those programs and who are about to go on those programs. Because if we don't make cuts now, they will get nothing, because inflation will destroy the value of any of the benefits that they believe that they are going to receive.